it will, but it's good. Left side anta perfect undi and right side lo it's move aitundi. If you don't move, it's very nice. Meeting is now streaming live. Lalesh live
లేదు సార్, ప్రైవేట్ లైవ్. నేను చెప్తాను కౌంట్ డౌన్.
సార్ బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్ ఉండనా తీయనా?
I'm comfortable with a wall also. నా దగ్గర మంచి బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్ కూడా ఉంది.
కానీ ఇది బాగుంది యాక్చువల్ గా. మీ బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్ ఇస్ వెరీ గుడ్. అపరిచితుడు ఇది ఉండనండి, ఇది బాగానే ఉంది. ఐ థింక్ ఇట్స్ గుడ్. లెట్స్ కంటిన్యూ. కొద్దిగా షేక్ అవుతుంది కానీ షుడ్ బి ఫైన్. Now it's good. Lalesh 1 minute ఎక్కువైపోయింది.
ఈరోజు వర్క్ ఫ్రమ్ హోమ్ చేస్తున్నాను. మీ వాటి కొంచెం ఫోన్లో తగ్గియండి సార్.
ఓకే. Busy day na Sunil? Saturday?
Yep.
Or 30 seconds countdown. Lalesh, okay na?
Okay, ఒక్క సెకండ్ సార్.
Ready. Countdown. Lalesh, you are counting down?
10 seconds.
5 minutes.
4 minutes.
ఏమైనా ఇష్యూవా లేకపోతే ఎవ్రీథింగ్ ఓకేనా? ఓకే.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning and good evening. Welcome to Mana TV and TV5. You are watching Insight with Praveen Puram. So, first of all, I would like to tell all our beloved loved ones, families in India to be safer in India and take care, social distance, please wear mask and keep yourself safe. So, coming to our Insight with Praveen Puram today, our guest is Mr. Sunil Robert, and we will be learning more about what is personal branding and how it is really how to make ourselves successful with personal branding and how to make our businesses success. So we'll just let's learn more about this from Sunil live, and I would like to introduce Sunil little more now. So Sunil is a reputed TEDx speaker, an award-winning author, and a global leader. And he's also he has a career of 25 years across India, Europe, and North America. He worked with reputed companies like Forbes, Eureka, Acer, Oracle, and TCS. His mission is to change the world. Wow. Through his communication skills. In addition to being a writer, he's also a motivational speaker. And he also wrote some of the books, autobiographical story like I Will Survive, launched in 2010, and it's a bestseller endorsed by global leaders like Ratan Tata and Joseph Kennedy. His second book, Bound to Rise, has been just launched in 2014, has been recommendations from leaders like Anand Mahindra, Chandrasekharan, and Dr. Balachandran. He was also recently selected by iCogno of the Rex Karmavir Global Fellowship. And he has many achievements. I would only read few of them, like Steve Award for Best Corporate Communicator in 2006, and he was a runner-up for PR Manager in the year 2006. And he also participated in the International Global Panel of Global PR Leaders in 2005, London. Wow, what a reputed journey, Sunil. Please welcome to this show, and thanks for your time today. Do you want to tell more about yourself?
Sure, Andy. First of all, thank you, Praveen Garu, for this lovely opportunity to share a few of my thoughts. Before I share anything, I'm first hoping that many of our viewers are staying safe and please practice social distancing. Unless absolutely necessary, do not step out. And we have to tide over this crisis. So please, every morning we are praying for our country, mana state lo na mana, my extended families, mandar kosam. We're always praying, thinking about you guys. So we have to first overcome this tragedy that is engulfing our country. It's a catastrophe under. It's the highest form of tragedy is a catastrophe, right? So India is going through this. Many others, mana families are struggling. So my hearts and our hearts and thoughts are with you, India. We are praying. So moving to the topic, personal branding gurinchi chapali ante. My own personal career trajectory is an example of a successful person who brands himself to stand out in a competitive setting. And right from our childhood, we are taught how to excel, how to achieve goals and stuff, but very few people consciously or unconsciously achieve distinction and greatness. And sometimes when you look back, it's either by design or by choice or by default. But Western world has really mastered the art of branding and personal branding. So if you look back, mana career trajectory in chusinapudu, mana individual ga mana business world lo chusna kani, we hear of big brands. The difference between a brand and a commodity or brand or something else which is easily available in ante, the premium and the high price people are willing to pay for a brand. Let's say we are talking about a suit and kondi. You're willing to pay $1,000 for an Armani suit or more, right? But ade India lo gankonte, you can go to a nearest tailor and get a a bespoke suit stitched for a fraction of that cost. But when you wear an Armani, people say, "Oh wow, it's an Armani suit." Same thing with a car, Andy. If you drive a luxury car, it's a brand. So if we are always consuming brands and we unconsciously attach a premium to the brand because it reflects luxury, it reflects a status symbol. But when you come down to a personal lives or an individual, we also have unconsciously branding that is happening. Right from our childhood, our teachers put us as brands. If a first rank a kid who comes at the top of his class, he becomes a brand. In fact, in to borrow Tollywood lines, they say, "Nenu vyaktini gaadu vyavastanu" ani we hear of a very famous
Yeah,
Bollywood.
exactly.
So that in itself is a brand. I am a brand ani చెప్పుకుంటా ఉంటారు. So that's the subject that we will be discussing today, Praveen.
Sure. That's a good topic, Sunil. So today, keeping the pandemic in view, right? You see the evolution of digital transformation, everything. So keeping all this in view, when you talk about a corporate, yes, personal, the branding is very important. So most of our friends, NRIs, being here, how do you tell them what is the importance of personal branding? How does it affect in their life, whether he may be a software engineer, or he may be a team lead, or he may be an entrepreneur, he may be any kind of business. So how do you tell them what is the importance of personal branding?
Yep. See, one of the things that the greatness of India and how India achieved IT success is because of our capability to be an excellent mathematician, logically grounded. Ala IT wave around the year Y2K, there was a huge immigrant flight or a flight of immigration that fueled thousands of people to come into the United States. And we all became NRIs and we all went, some of us went into becoming citizens and so on. But you think of it not from an Indian mindset, but if you see it from how our customers are seeing, the non Indians, for them, we all look alike. We all speak similarly. I mean, only few people can understand the difference between Hindi and other languages. But for the most parts, our American colleagues, our non-Indian colleagues, they just see us all dress similarly, talk similarly, our eating habits are somewhat similar. And so for them, we are just one group of people, lump of people who come from a particular country. So in the business world, for example, when I as a marketer, when I study brands, in their minds, if you take away the company labels that these engineers represent, they all are one massive commodity of people in their mindset. So as far as they are concerned, we are all one homogeneous group. So, how do we individually stand out is a function of your branding capability. For example, if there are 50 engineers working in a bank, as far as the customer is concerned, all 50 look alike, behave alike. He is just getting the job done. But among those 50 individuals, there'll be 5 people who stand out for their leadership qualities, who stand out for their ability to communicate, who stand out for their ability to execute and get things done. Those are the 5 who are the bridge between the rest of the 45 people and the customers. So, personal branding is an important element of the leadership bubble when you rise to the top. If you are not standing out, it means that you're not doing the things that are needed to be noticed by your customer. Be noticed. And it happens even in campuses. Every year, hundreds of students come into America to study. How do they stand out on campus is a function of what they do, how they speak, how they achieve excellence. ఇవన్నీ యాడ్ చేస్తే ఆ పర్సనల్ బ్రాండ్ అనేది ఫామ్ అవుతుంది. సో as a leader in the last 15 years, my achievements are many, but what I'm trying to do is stitch all these achievements together to show that I'm not just a regular guy who came from India like many other Indian uh, colleagues of mine, but I have a different message to offer to the world. And I try to brand and I try to stay distinct in this corporate journey.
Awesome. You have nicely said, Sunil. Definitely, personal branding is very important, especially from our Asian culture, who come here, and we do a fantastic job from the technical perspective, from the the logical perspective, and writing all the technical algorithms. We are number one. There is no question about that.
Sure.
So, how it is more important than ever? Do you think personal branding should be like part of their career? How do you explain a normal person?
Absolutely. See, in India, right from our childhood, if you get good marks in math, you'll get a lot of rewards. But if
Exactly.
you start struggling in math, మనకి బెత్తాలు తీస్తారు, తిట్లు పడతాయి. ఎందుకు అలా అంటే, because back in the day, India had only 2 or 3 career options. Either you can become an engineer or a doctor, or at best some civil services, and a few more opportunities. Everything else, you were not up there in the corporate ladder. Times have changed. People should start recognizing that just there's a very famous uh, educational scientist called Howard Gardner who said
Mhm.
there are 8 types of intelligences. One is mathematical intelligence that everybody in India, we put it on a pedestal. But then there are multiple other intelligences, including human intelligence or relationship intelligence. So just think math, and that's why India became such a successful IT superpower, because the mathematical intelligence was celebrated, rewarded, and pursued. But in the process, we just created a huge army of engineers and possibly missed out the imaginative side of people. So to start recognizing that every human being is gifted with multiple sets of intelligences and our recognition to start cheste, everyone can become a brand. Why? Because right from our childhood, people start saying, okay, this child may not be good at math, may not become an engineer, but he or she may become an artist or a writer, because if the person is gifted in words, that person may become a gifted songwriter, a creative writer, a fiction writer. So, alamanamu, if we start identifying individuals for their gifts or their in their younger days, and once they come into the business world and once they become adults, if we start recognizing them for their mission and their contribution, then personal branding starts emerging.
Yeah, I think you rightly said. Definitely, every parent who is watching that now, watching this live session, should understand to see what their kids are good at, and transform them and brand them, and then take them into the next level. That's rightly said, Sunil. So, how is this personal branding different from the corporate branding? So, we all hear corporate branding so many times, right, from our childhood, but now, given the digitalization, given the social media, so how do you differentiate between these two?
Excellent, Andy. Thank you for asking. See, before the emergence of social media, if you wanted to be a brand, you should have been written in a newspaper or you should have appeared in a TV channel. Then you would have become well known in your circle. But today, with the social media, everyone who has an Instagram account or a Facebook account or a Twitter account, they can become a brand in themselves. Andukani Instagram lo, young people are making a living by becoming Instagram influencers. ఎలా అంటే if they have a particular subject that they are interested in, YouTube influencers. In fact, my 8-year-old son does not want to become anything other than a YouTuber. He just says, Daddy, if I can get 1 million followers, I'll be rich. That's how they think these days. And that's the right way to think, because in this digital world, in this social media world, what matters is you have a voice, you have a followers, you have a set of followers, then you're good to go. You don't need a mainstream media in bypass చేస్తున్నారన్నమాట. Earlier, the newspapers used to be the way to go, but now even newspapers are getting their sources from social media. So there is an intertwining of mainstream media, mass media, and social media. In that situation, it doesn't really matter whether you are a celebrity first and then you become an influencer, or you become an influencer first and then you become a mainstream recognized individual. Let's say you're in the IT world, and IT world is full of similar looking people with similar looking interests and similar looking behaviors. But within that ocean, you can still be an influencer. Just like you take the ocean, there are different types of fish. There are different sizes of fish. So if you start branding yourself as different, if anybody had the misfortune of going to a business school, they will learn that branding has two elements, Andy. One is the relevance, the other one is differentiation. Relevance అంటే ఏంటి అంటే ఇది నాకు వర్తిస్తుందా లేదా అని ప్రతి ఒక్కరు చూస్తారనమాట. ఇఫ్ దిస్ టాపిక్ ఆఫ్ బ్రాండింగ్ మన వ్యూవర్స్ లో ఎవరైనా చూస్తే ఈ టాపిక్ నాకు వర్తిస్తుందా లేదా అన్న ఆ రెలవెన్స్ చూస్తారు. తర్వాత then they will move to the differentiation. Differentiation అంటే ఇది వేరుగా ఉందా లేదా అని చూస్తారు. సో ఇది వర్తించడము అనేది రెలవెన్స్, ఇది వేరుగా ఉందా అనేది డిఫరెన్సియేషన్. ఇప్పుడు if you look at many NRIs who came, I am no different than many of you. I mean, in some ways, you may have achieved a lot more in some technical spheres than me. But what is important is not that. We are all relevant as NRIs. Differentiation ekkada vastundi ante, what did I do in the few years that I've been an immigrant anna our story emerge avutundi. So in that short time, within the few years that I came, I wrote 2 books. I got 1 book translated Aparajitudu into our home state mana Telugu bhashalo anuvadinchadam jarigindi. Tarvata I went on to give a TED talk which reached 500,000 people nearly. So ala how you are using your time here as an NRI, as an immigrant into this new country. ఇప్పుడు ఎంతసేపు ఇండియా అనకుండా మన లోకల్ కమ్యూనిటీలో ఏం చేస్తున్నావయ్యా అని ఎవరైనా అడిగితే యూ నీడ్ టు హ్యావ్ అ గుడ్ ఆన్సర్. అండ్ సో యు ఆర్ నౌ అన్ అమెరికన్ సిటిజన్ అంటే కనుక మన మాతృభూమిని ఎంత ప్రేమిస్తున్నామో ఇప్పుడు ఇక్కడ మనం ఉంటున్నాం కాబట్టి ఈ దేశాన్ని కూడా మనం అంతే ప్రేమించాలి. We have to keep rising to the occasion anytime a need comes. So I'm serving as a volunteer in a prison in New Jersey. I'm very actively involved in our local community here in New Jersey. Ala manu ekkadiki velna kuda, one part is our home country, our roots, but the other country is giving us a chance to give us fruits. So roots are important ani na belief anamata.
Excellent. Sunil, so in your experience today in branding world, so do you think the companies also invest their time in personal branding their employees?
See, the companies have their goals and their revenue sort of orientation. And so as long as those goals are met, companies will then shift focus to highlighting the employee contribution. Let's say an employee went over and beyond his call of duty and did something great ankondi. Companies will invest something as long as it's advancing their mission. Mm-hmm. The rights and responsibilities of doing something in the personal branding space is purely falling on the individual and matter.
Excellent.
The company doesn't care what you do as an individual, as long as their goals are met, as long as you are discharging your responsibilities to the best of your ability, right? Okay. But what you do outside of that space as a professional adds to your brand. So there are many people who are stuck in a job that has nothing to do with their interests, Andy. For example, I teach a lot of people inside my company and outside in social media circles and all. Many of them have unfulfilled dreams. They would have loved to be a photographer. They would have loved to be a writer. They would have loved to become a singer. And because computer science is better, they pursued that stream of engineering, but their heart is somewhere else. So I tell them, don't ever postpone your dreams in pursuit of a career, because pretty soon you realize 15, 20, 25 years have gone by and many of your dreams are unfulfilled. They say in the motivational speaking circles, emantarante, The graveyard is the richest place full of potential because many people have carried their potential to the grave. Of
Yes.
course, unfulfilled dreams, unfulfilled desires, they carry to their graves. So, if you have a natural inclination, a desire, a dream, a heartbeat, అది pursue చేయకపోతే it's a very frustrating experience, and just not only for you, you're being selfish by not doing it, by not stepping out, because the world would be richer with your gifts if you didn't explore. So that's my
I,
reminder.
I think you said in a right way, Sunil. So let's move on to the other question here. What is the connection between leadership and branding? How do you explain that?
In simple terms, a strong leader is a brand. You cannot be a leader without being a brand. Leadership is, there are two elements of leadership, Andy. One is the designation that the company gives you,
Mhm.
or you call yourself a CEO. అవి ఫ్యాన్సీ టైటిల్స్ పెట్టుకుంటున్నారు. ఈ మధ్యన లింక్డ్ఇన్ లో చూస్తే కనుక ప్రతి ఓడు ఏదో ఫ్యాన్సీ టైటిల్స్ పెట్టుకొని దే జస్ట్ ఫీల్ గుడ్ అబౌట్ ఇట్, విచ్ ఇస్ గ్రేట్. బట్ యువర్ డెసిగ్నేషన్ ఇస్ నాట్ యువర్ లీడర్షిప్ ఇన్ఫ్లుయెన్స్. Your ability to do things, to move people, is your real leadership index.
Exactly.
Some people don't have the fancy designation, but you can tell in a group that they are the ones who have real influence. So your influence is actually your leadership, and how people recognize you is your brand. ఇప్పుడు నేను మోటివేషనల్ స్పీకర్ అని నేను ఫీల్ అవ్వచ్చు, అంకల్ గుద్దుకోవచ్చు. But unless people around me feel that I inspire them and encourage them, that I have this ability to leave them in a better place, నేను ఎంత ఫీల్ అయినా అది ఛాతీ వెచ్చుకొని తిరగడం తప్ప, there's no point to that vanity అన్నమాట.
That's
So
true.
branding is other people recognizing you for your gifts and talents.
Okay. So another similar simple question, because most of our friends, right, including it might be me, myself, will not be very, very cautious to update our LinkedIn, update our Facebook with what we do. We see many people do a lot of things, but they do not update them in the social media. So how do you give a message to them? So it is at least now listening to this, what should we do as a baby step to at least refine our branding in LinkedIn?
First of all, do you have the desire to be a leader? It starts from there. Do you want to make a difference to others? Do you want to be seen as a guru in your subject matter? What drives branding is actually the end result of what do you intend to do with your life. So it goes back to a mission in your life. Meeru chepparu kada na introduction lo, he wants to change the world ani. My mission started very early in my life as a teenager. I wanted to first become a journalist. And my parents and my family were totally against me. ఎందుకంటే ఆ కాలంలో journalists were, first of all, underpaid, and secondly, being a journalist was fraught with a lot of risks and matter. My mother thought, I was a very contentious, very conflict-driven young man, and my mother thought if this guy becomes a journalist, he'll get into a lot of trouble. And Sasemira Oddu and they put their hard foot down. So, because of that love for communications and to make a difference, I moved into business and corporate communications and stuff. And I said, I want to change the world through my communication skills. And our mission, and because of that mission, I ended up writing books. Because of that mission, I ended up giving a TED talk. So ultimately, it's about what you want to do and how you. So if I don't update my LinkedIn, it's just either arrogance that I don't need a job or I don't need to be well known, or just sheer lack of interest or laziness to not update their social media presence.
Awesome.
If you're not updating it, there's no point in keeping it at this part of India.
Yes, that's true. That's true, Sunil. That the reason I asked you this question, at least to change few of them. Even if I changed a couple of them to change their branding, I am achieved with this show. And thank you for making that comment. So, what do you think the success looks like? like in a personal branding? Where do I think I am successful?
Excellent question, actually. See, many people say uh, in, in, in branding and in advertising, the day people start coming to knock on your door and seek your inputs, you have arrived. See, our own connection, how it came about is because a third person whom we both of us knew said, so and so is a good person to connect with. Ani, the social media talk, wala, we got connected. That
Exactly.
is social media currency. That's referenceability. That's word of mouth. See, when we buy a product is called successful when others are raving about it without getting anything in return. మనం మంచి మూవీ చూసాం అనుకోండి, we rave it to our family, we rave it to our friends. When we buy a nice product, we just can't stop talking about it. That is
Exactly.
branding. That is success. అలాగే మన ప్రొఫెషనల్ జర్నీలో కూడా if you achieve that degree of success where people are talking about you without you spending time on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, that is when you've arrived. When you are hunted by your customers saying, come work for me, we need your solution, that's the day you've arrived. When you are
Awesome.
hunted by headhunters saying, hey, there's this opportunity, and then you say, no, I don't want a job, I'm happy, they'll say, no, just at least explore this. That's when people are breaking your door down to get to you. That is success in my view.
I really agree with you. Definitely, our connection is also a different way. That way, we got to know about you and your success, and then we are doing this show. Similarly, this show is also evolution, right? People started encouraging, people started asking some more to do, and that's where I developed my passion towards it, and I'm continuing that. Thank you so much. So let's talk about women challenges, right? So in this particularly branding, right? What are the challenges faced by the women? And especially I see South Asian culture challenges. So can you please little bit throw light on those topics?
Yeah. Actually, మనకి ఇండియాలో సౌత్ ఏషియన్ కల్చర్ లో మన చూస్తే కనుక we are very uncomfortable to tell the world I am good at this subject. ఎందుకంటే ఇండియాలో ఎలా అంటే in my own case, if any time I was bragging or I was chest thumping, my parents used to say, hey, be humble, గొప్పలు చెప్పుకోకూడదు, పొగడతలు ఎదుటివాడు నిన్ను పొగడాలి కానీ నిన్ను నువ్వే సొంత పొగడాలి. They used to just shut me down anytime I was feeling good about myself. So we all become false humility అలాంటివి వస్తూ ఉంటాయి అన్నమాట. So South Asian culture itself does not thrive on self-validation or self-appreciation. But when you look at kids who are growing up here, even a little child would know that if she or he is good at something, they acknowledge that they are good at something. So that's the fundamental difference between the Asian culture, or where we are taught to be self-effacing, self-abasing, versus self-promoting culture of the West. So that's the cultural difference. But when it comes to women, particularly South Asian women, they are up against many challenges. I mean, any given day, women from South Asia can achieve as much, if not more, from their other counterparts any given day. But because of the responsibilities that they carry at home, from a role of a wife, role of a mother, role of as a daughter-in-law, if the extended family happens to be here. Particularly, I'm talking about immigrant women who have come here. And first of all, there are all those H4 challenges where sometimes they can't work, so they are underutilized and their potential is underutilized. So there is that employability challenges. If assuming that employability challenges were taken care, then there are all these branding related issues that sometimes when they take a break for maternity, employers don't often understand that it's a natural biological process that they took a break for maternity, that they should not struggle to get back to work. So employability again is a question mark. How do you explain these gaps on a resume? Some of that gets in there. And when they're getting back, sometimes they battle with confidence issues. Did I lose my skill currency? And am I as sharp with my skills before I went on this 1 year, 1.5 year, 2 year break, or sometimes a larger break. So some of that confidence related issues crop up for in the mind of a woman. And if there's a difficult challenge, then facing interviews and handling difficult questions is a big problem. So those are some of the issues that just come the top of my mind. Praveen.
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered, Sunil. Some of the challenges I see that people in the LinkedIn also, the women, they don't upload their photograph. They are shy about it, and there are a lot of things around it. I think everyone should come out of it. And second thing, as you said, the visas, right? H4 visas. It's a curse for a woman to be a spouse and coming to this country and being, even though they have talent, they are bound by the laws. I was talking to one of our consulate to put forward this, but there are a lot of country issues where they cannot
Yes.
allow the women to work without a visa. But my argument is, yes, just because she's a wife, she's coming to this country, she cannot be idle if she has a talent. She has to be honored to work. So probably who is listening, they might change. Who knows? That's the thing. And coming to this, what was your experience and how did you discover the need for this branding? So from your perspective, what is your experience?
It actually started very early, Praveen. I always wanted to. In my childhood, I was among the top 10 students, but I was never in the top 2 or 3. Right? My best friend, a boy by name Srikant, was always beating everybody and is first ranker in my class. So I realized very early that if I have to, and my mother and my family who used to say, "Hey, your best friend is the first ranker. Why are you always hanging out with him, but you can never, do as well, right?" So there was that pressure for me. But what I used to do is, I discovered very early that there are a few subjects in which my friend Srikant was not as great as I was. For example, Telugu was one of them, and social studies was another. Math, unfortunately, Srikant was a genius. So in the 3 subjects that I was comfortable and Srikant was not, I used to beat him. And my argument with my parents used to be, look, in these 3 subjects, I scored more than Srikant, right? So it used to be the way I differentiated myself from in business terms, they are called the market leaders, right? There are market leaders, and then people like us are market followers or also rants. So people like me who had the disadvantage of not being at the top with the skills that my friend had, I had to start finding ways to excel in a different way. Public speaking was another one.
Mhm.
In my school, I was easily the one who would start associating and saying, Sunil's got a good gift in that area. Allah, it started very early. And the moment I came to college and stuff, I realized that there are some things that I can do better than others. For example, going into advertising was a big challenge. I got a government job in South Central Railways, and when I told my parents I'm not taking the job in railways, వాళ్ళకి హార్ట్ అటాక్ వచ్చింది. ఇదేంటి గవర్నమెంట్ జాబ్ ఎల్టీసీ అవి ఉంటాయి, యూ గెట్ అ లాట్ ఆఫ్ పర్క్స్, క్వార్టర్స్ ఇస్తారు, ఇట్లా అంటే మధ్యతరగతి దృక్పథం అన్నమాట. Mindset was, if your life is going to be secure, why are you saying no? But I said no. I believe I have some gifts and talents. I want to pursue them. Ante they didn't like it at all. But thanks be to God, after many years, my risks paid off. But that's when I pursued, how do I become a brand, or how do I stand out in comparison to others? And our journey started then. I started writing newspaper articles. Our Kalanlo, Deccan Chronicle, Economic Times, these were the places where you could write and see your name being published. I did some radio programming, Radio Kelly, Yuvani English Law. I was a radio jockey for 3 years. It was a huge opportunity because Manlantalki, just getting into radio itself was a big deal, but just be a Yuvani English compere meant that you really were good, you were gifted, and validation వచ్చేదన్నమాట. So that's how I pursued branding, and pretty soon people started recognizing that Sunil's got a gift in this area ani అలా మన రెప్యుటేషన్ కొంచెం పెరిగిందన్నమాట.
I think this is very inspirational, Sunil, because most of us generally, if you see, there's always a peer pressure, right? Everything you compare to others and you depress yourself, and now After you're listening to your the speech, we should all think that what are our strengths, just focus on them, just listen and forget about that, take a deep breath, pursue in your which you are good enough. That
Sure.
wonderful, thank you. And how does one build a brand after we enter into the corporate world?
See, our branding exercise starts right from day one, Andy. Day one of your first day of first job. And people evaluate you for two reasons. What's the potential you're showing and what's your actual performance? Chalamandi potential is immense, but what they do with that potential is a big question mark for many people. I get very frustrated when I meet people with great potential but low performance because they have everything going and they are still not working hard enough on matter. And it happens when I hire young people, when I hire people for my teams. I evaluate them on how well they do, not just on their day job, but how well they are potentially capable of doing.
Exactly.
And that to me, if they are capable of playing at, let's say, if we borrow the IPL example, if somebody is playing just at the IPL team, that's 1 degree. But every time somebody is playing in IPL, they evaluate and say, does this cricketer have the potential to represent India someday? And a question of the, and when you play for India, then that's when you really achieved your potential. And the same thing is applicable in the corporate world. Does this boy, girl, young lad, young man, young woman, do they have the potential to lead a big team, a big company, a big in 10, 15, 20 years from now? Alanti questions, so people evaluate you. So if you want to build your brand, you should start behaving not just for today, but for the future. That you should start taking ownership. That you should start saying, if so and so is given this job, you can be sure that it'll get done. How's your reliability? How is your believability? కొంతమంది ఎట్లా చెప్తారంటే నోరంతా ఊరంతా చెప్పేసిస్తారు కానీ కాలు గడప దాటదు అంటారు కదా. మాటలు కోటలు దాటుతాయి కానీ కాలు గడప దాటదు అంటారు. What it means is you're big on talk but low on action. So it's very important to judge
Balance.
people on their action and performance.
Awesome. I think definitely there should be a balance. Otherwise, people will not believe. First time they might believe, but second time they will not, definitely. So I think in the interest of time, I think we are almost nearing to we crossed, in fact. So I'll ask two questions and then we will close the show. So Sunil, what are some practical steps we must take to embark on this journey? To our viewers, definitely who is watching this 30 minutes, they should take away. My my thought is to bring all these kinds of new things which are very much essential in their daily jobs, daily practical life, and they have to implement. So if that is the consideration, what would be your few steps?
The first question they should ask, and this is the right time of the year to ask, is, are you getting everything that you aimed, dreamt, aspired for from your career, from your job? This year, let's say you were aspiring for a promotion. Have you got it this year? If you didn't get it here, why did you fall short? So these are the kind of questions that you should ask. So that's the first thing. Relative to my aspirations, am I where I should be? If the answer is no, then you have some work to do on your branding as well. So that's the first practical advice I'd give. Second, what is it that I can do now from a personal branding standpoint that will help me reach some big goals in the next 12 months, 1 year, 2 years or so? So goal setting is the second most practical tool that is important after you identify your mission. Mission is the first. So what are one or two things that you can write down as a result of listening to Mr. Sunil Robert and Praveen Puram today? You need to have a goal saying, okay, I want to become a general manager by the time, whatever, right? If you're a project manager, getting to some other technical lead role. If you're in business, how do I get to sales leadership? Whatever is your goal, you should have a second outcome that you need to come as a result of this session that we have done. And the third and the final thing is, Are you communicating your achievements, skills, gifts, talents enough for people to know? Some people think, నేను ఏదో technical job చేస్తున్నాను. People just assume that they know everything else about. No, your job that you are doing has a certain set of skills that you deploy. Your skills, your job, your outcomes need to be communicated all the time. You don't have to share all the confidential details, but if you are smart enough, you know how to show that you are blessed with certain skills, that you deploy those skills and affect organizations around you. You should communicate those things. So just to recap, 3 things. What is the first thing that I said is you need to start identifying the aspiration gap between what you want versus what you're getting. Second one is, do you have enough goals to write down for the next couple of years? And finally, are you communicating what you're supposed to be doing at work to the outside world, or are you just assuming everybody knows?
Yes. So Sunil, I think you rightly said, I'm very sure all these 3 points are noted from all of our friends who are watching this. And now I wanted to ask you one more question, a live question or a practical question, but everyone can really make changes to their branding. So storytelling. So if you see in the LinkedIn today, everyone is putting as storyteller, evangelist, that, this, philanthropist. So what is a person, a normal person? For example, let's think a software engineer coming into this, NRI is coming into this country or being anywhere. How do they represent? They can't use these words where they are not doing, right? So as we said that what you tell and what you do should match. So tell us, from the software engineer or a senior software engineer, what can they put as a storytelling, and then how can they brand themselves?
Hey, this is a challenge everyone faces when they're in the early stages of their career, right? So when you're in the first couple of years, you have nothing great to show on your resume. How do you still create an exciting profile, right? That's when you start from your personal mission and personal set of strengths and gifts and talent. Let's say you're this hyperactive individual. You say naturally inclined to leadership. And I see you have to project yourself as a natural leader and showcase what you did it in your computer engineering, or what did you do in your sports, if you have any sports interests. You have to compensate for lack of experience with your personality. At my stage in our career, at your stage in our career, where we have a few years behind us, it's no longer about personality, it's about track record. So when you're short on track record, you pump up your personality and your skills and talents and your interests and aspirations. But once you get in the door and once you have a few years of experience, it's always about track record and always about personality driving that track record.
Yeah, I think definitely that makes sense, Sunil. And today, even I might definitely, I can think that you might also experience this. Most of the people coming for interviews, right? And today, as an interviewer or a marketing leader, you definitely will see the LinkedIn profile, you'll see the Facebook profile, and understand the personality. So in that context, do you think everyone should be up to date on the social media, whether they are active or not active? That's a different part.
Yeah. So if you're not active, you should delete it, because that leaves a very bad impression to recruiters if they are looking at your. Some people have accounts that are not updated for years, and then people say, "Oh no, I didn't find time" or something. So first of all, you should delete your presence if you're not active. But if you're active, it should be consistent with who you are. You cannot have controversial posts out there that might affect you in your hiring. You cannot write very and that's you have every right to believe what you believe, freedom of expression, freedom of speech, right to believe. But potentially you're giving them material to make impressions. They say in recruiting, you never get a second chance to make a first impression.
Exactly.
First impressions matter. So LinkedIn has to be very polished, a decent looking picture, attractive picture. And with this new cell phones, you cannot say, "Oh, I don't have a good picture," right? I mean, even a simple phone can take a great shot of yours. So good pictures are important, and a very good summary of your achievement on LinkedIn. And so they have to be updated. They have to. In India, people have this tendency, oh, if I put my LinkedIn profile, people think I'm looking for a job. Headhunters start chasing me and and chepta untaru. That
Yes.
is no longer a situation. LinkedIn is a publishing platform. It's like a media house. It's like a media tool that you have to use to make your branding come alive. If you are hiding behind those excuses, they are that excuses.
Awesome. Awesome, Sunil. I think do you have anything to tell to the viewers that are there any boot camps to improve our skills in branding? Short boot camps or webinars or which will be helpful for every one of us to look at the personal branding and understand them and implement them.
Oh, sure. There are tons of stuff available, Andy. I put together a course on Udemy for leadership where I talk about personal branding. I personally have a couple of videos on YouTube where I talk about personal branding. So do remember to check them out. And there's tons of stuff available. And in today's day and age, you cannot be saying, I don't know enough of material on these topics. There is really, Coursera has a bunch of courses on personal branding, free courses actually you can take. The sky's the limit if you're really hungry, Andy.
Okay. I think thank you so much for your time. As a closing message, I would like to, tell the audience, how did you ignite to write books? How do you find time to write books?
I'm thankful actually for my wife who lets me do a lot of my passions and interests. So when I was growing up, I Will Survive is actually a personal story, a true life story. So when I was wanting to go and tell the story, it actually started when we used to go to India for our annual vacations. Every time we went, a lot of young people would say, can you come and speak in our college? Can you come and speak in our engineering college? You have a very interesting story. So that's when the idea came that how about I come up with a booklet. Initially, I thought it'll be a small booklet that tells my story and young people can just read it. And that works even when I'm not physically present in India. Na, Talam, I started writing. My wife said, you know what, yours is a great story. You should actually go full hog and offer some practical advice to young people also about how to crack a job, about how to find your gifts and talents, some of your own struggles. Then it became a full length book, and I wrote my first book. And the second book also happened as as a guidance, a set of mantras for young executives coming into the corporate world. Then my first book, somebody asked to translate, and it became Aparajitudu in Telugu. So that's how, Andy. I'm an accidental writer, but it was the desire to tell a story.
Definitely. I think that's a great thought. You wrote it and you achieved it. Maybe we all need to read and see how well we can learn the lessons from that. And with that said, again, I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart and from all our TV5 and Mana TV. Thank you so much for educating all of us. And thank you to all the viewers and stay safe and
Stay safe, everyone.
have a good
God
day.
bless.